Unlike our old sessions, last for, 6 sessions, I feel today we have relatively less content, relatively, because it's a small task. So this task from our PMP exam content outline, if you are watching this particular thing first time, you can go to pmi.org, select PMP certification, scroll it down. You can download something called PMP exam content outline. We many times call it ECO. What is PMP exam content outline? It tells what all will come in PMP exam. It is designed in a way that what tasks are expected from the project manager. In a way, you can say roles and responsibility of a project managers, and these are the thing which will get validated when we go for PMP exam. And this particular thing is divided into people, process, and business domain. And today we are focusing on one of the tasks of people domain called define team ground rules. So it talks about communicating organizing principles, establishing environment to foster the ground rule, and managing the ground rule violation. Pretty simple 3 topics related to this area. Now let's focus on communicate organizational principles and team with the team and the external stakeholders. So this particular topic can be understood as creating a shared understanding amongst the stakeholder as well as the team member about how are we coming together, what is our primary value, what is our vision. So we are here like we have a collection of stakeholders, we have a project team members, and we are working on the project. All of us should be in agreement with our overall vision for the project. So as a project manager, I need to take various opportunity to ensure that the high level understanding of organization vision and project vision is well communicated and agreed upon between project stakeholders and the team. I need to have a clear understanding of what kind of values and ethics we follow, what is acceptable behavior from a stakeholder perspective as well as from team member perspective. So we need to have that common understanding. How do we communicate with each other, how the stakeholders can communicate with the team members, how the team members can communicate with the stakeholders, what kind of communication frequency will get followed, what kind of meetings we will do, what kind of reviews we will do, so that we keep reiterating our common understanding towards vision and the project value. So overall agreement on development approaches as well. So such kind of things should be very clearly communicated and understood and agreed upon with the stakeholder. That's how we can say that I, as a project manager, I am communicating organizational principles with the teams and the stakeholder. This point is more focusing on the stakeholders. Now, when it comes to team, then also they should have a clear understanding of their organizational principles, like what kind of a roles and responsibilities are there inside the team. Now it depends. You may have a very clearly defined roles and responsibility. You may have overlapping roles and responsibility. It depends upon the approach you are taking. In some predictive life cycle approaches, we may have proper RACI metrics and all. In the adaptive life cycle, the approach, roles and responsibility may keep changing, but the team member should have an understanding what they can expect from each other. So as a project manager, I need to facilitate, not necessarily dictate. That's an important differentiator we should keep in mind about roles and responsibility of the team member, how they manage their work, how they do their internal communication. So this kind of organizational principles need to be very well understood by the stakeholders and the team. Now you might be wondering, okay, this looks like a generic thing. What do I do as a project manager? Whenever people have a disagreement about these things, I need to make sure that they have a common understanding. Whenever the new people are joining in, I need to ensure that they understand. Maybe new stakeholders are joining in, I need to ensure that they have a common understanding about project value, vision, ethics, and development approaches. I may use various tools, various artifacts to achieve that. Now, the new PMP exam is not focusing on artifact as a primary goal. The having an understanding of common vision between stakeholder and the team and understanding how do we approach that particular thing, that is more valued. But having said that, in order to visualize this, you may want to know what kind of tools, meetings, artifact we can use to achieve this. Some of these I am listing here. At stakeholder level, you may have a project charter. Yeah, you may have a contract. So these things you may have. Yeah, project charter is expected to be there all the time. Contract may be there, may not be there. So project charter may be at a very, very high level. It may clarifies what is this project is all about, what is the high level constraints, what are the high level business value we want to deliver. Sometimes it may get into the details of what kind of milestones we want to achieve in this particular project. So this helps us in having a common understanding of our business values, our vision, and may dictate some kind of development approaches also which can be followed in our project. So as a project manager, if I say I need to create a common understanding about our project goals and vision, and if the option tells that I can use project charter for it, it's a good option, because project charter is a tool which helps us in doing it. Contracts, if your project is working for someone else and there could be a contract as an input to your project charter, then contract also serves a purpose to have a common understanding between stakeholder and the project team. What is part of our responsibility, what is not part of our responsibility, I need to be clear. Contracts, when you are working with other vendors, may also clarify them what are expectations from them. So understanding and creating a common understanding and organizing around that can be achieved with the help of contract as well. As a project manager, you may facilitate doing kickoff meeting in the initial stage of the project, which can also help us in creating the common understanding of vision and fundamental values and ethics. You may reiterate development approaches, communication protocol in that particular kickoff meeting. And then this is all like a starting thing, these three, but frequent reviews. Now, frequent reviews, if you are following agile way of working, you can call it sprint reviews, iteration reviews. If you are following the predictive way of working, you can talk about milestone reviews, phase end reviews. They also ensures that we are common, we have a common goal, we are reflecting on if there are any deviation, and we can reiterate what we are trying to achieve in this particular project. So overall, understanding the problem in a shared manner at a stakeholder level can be achieved with the help of these tools. Now, when it comes to team, how do I ensure roles and responsibility, work management, and team communication, and all those things? This is again examples. You may not use them, you may use them depending upon the project context. But if you are dealing with the exam, these are the good tools to be used. RACI matrix. So RACI matrix, sometimes we think it's only for predictive life cycle. Yes, it's mainly used in predictive way of working, but may get used in the hybrid way of working or adaptive way of working also, provided it helps us in creating initial understanding of who is expected to do what, and we can work with that understanding throughout our project and improve that understanding as we go along. So RACI matrix can help us in understanding roles and responsibility of our team members. We can also focus on team charter. So we will get into team charter, agreed upon ground rules, and working agreement. These three things many times used interchangeably, but this is something is more focused in our rest of the presentation, because this help us in understanding how are we organizing ourselves, how do we communicate with each other when it comes to at a team level. In a predictive way of working, I may have a detailed understanding of what is expected from individuals, what is their reward and recognition process, at what frequency they get evaluated, what is the performance expectation from them. Those things need to be more clearly defined, and those kind of things may be defined in a resource management plan. So resource management plan may not be needed when you are working in the adaptive world, because it is more like having a clear understanding of how resources will be boarded, onboarded. But you can't just deny the existence of resource management plan, because it may be needed, especially when you are working in the hybrid environment. So these are the tools. You can say RACI metrics, team charter, ground rules, which might be a part of team charters only, in order to achieve how do we set up our common understanding between the team members as well as the external stakeholder. So as a project manager, you can say that I use these tools to create a common understanding about what we are trying to achieve, how are we trying to achieve, how do we work with each other, what do we expect from each other to start in the project. So that's a one kind of subtask around this task number 12, which is focusing on defining team ground rules. Now going forward, and before I talk about team charter, some fundamental explanation to have a better understanding when we come to the PMP exam. So say we may have a many team members who are working for this particular project. And you may think that in a traditional way of working, maybe traditional project manager, you can say, I will be a project manager and I will tell everyone what they should be working on. Yeah. and I will keep guiding them, and by doing it, they will achieve the project objective. Yeah. That could be a mindset which we may carry, and it might be an expert leaders. The leader is expert, and the people who are in the team, they don't know anything much about it, and that's why leader keeps telling those things to our team member. In a current PMP exam, irrespective of adaptive or predictive way of working, this is not expected. Yeah, you are not expected to instruct your team members. Why? Because you are expected to work with people who know what they are doing. They have good skills. They know far more than project manager when it comes to their domain area, and they are the one who should be making right decision about how they achieve project objective, rather than a project manager making decisions and creating tasks or allocating work to them. So that is not needed from the project manager. Now somebody will say, okay, but ultimately they need to achieve project objective. Yeah, they need to produce some deliverable. So what is the project manager role? How the project manager ensure the deliverable get achieved? And that is what we are focusing on. The project manager should work as a platform which ensures that these people have a mechanism to work well with each other. So they know how to talk, how to estimate, how to take a decision. So my role is basically to set up an environment. We are going a little beyond this task, but that's a fundamental thinking process we need to keep in mind when we are dealing with the people domain. So I am here to create a right environment. I am here to educate people in a way so that they can work well with each other. I am here to develop those skills which helps them in collaborating, cooperating, and finally producing the value. So that is my role. Now, in order to achieve that role, yeah, one of the tool which is a focus of this task is your working agreement, ground rules, or a team charter. So we can say that, okay, guys, rather than I tell you what to do, why don't you have a working agreement between all of you? Why don't we have some mechanism to say, guys, this is how we work together? And rather than I telling that team charter, I need to ensure that team members can collaborate and come up with that particular team charter. So let's look into the topic of team charter. Now, this team charter many times get confused with project charter. There is no correlation. Say, both of these topics are focusing on different goal. The project charter focuses on creating stakeholder level, business level understanding of what are we trying to achieve, what are our limitation, how much money we have, what kind of milestone we should adhere to, what is expected from this project. So it is like a seed level information. Whereas a team charter is basically focusing on team interaction. Okay, it focuses on giving a team a mechanism to collaborate with each other, make team level decision, doing work distribution, and having clear understanding of how do we work well with each other. That's the whole focus of team charter. Now, from a PMB exam perspective, you get a question. Oh, people are confused what they should do, who should do this particular work, what should you do as a project manager? And your option, one option tells you will tell them what to do. Wrong option. You don't tell them what to do. You will facilitate that they can improve their team charter if that option exists. Yeah, again, in the PMP exam, the selection of option depends upon what are the other four options. But if you see an option which helps you in setting up the ground rules or a working agreement or a team charter, you go for that. Now, the another confusion people comes, team charter, working agreement, ground rule, are they separate or they are the same thing? In a simple word, you can say team charter is an umbrella term. If you see a word team charter, you can fairly assume it includes ground rules and working agreement. But when you see only working agreement, you can say that, yeah, working agreement gives us some understanding of how do we work together. Now here, I'm trying to show you a possible section and possible things which might be there in a team charter. The objective is just an example. PMI or nobody is dictating you that you should have all this. Whatever makes you comfortable to organize people and have some collaborative work environment, that all information is needed in the team charter. It could be electronic document. You may create a Word document out of it. It could be a collaborative flip chart where you guys put some stickies and paste it to a visible place. Or it could be an understanding which people have and they may get just documented in the form of email. The artifact from a PMP exam is not important. Agreement is important. But you should have an agreement in such a way so that it can be referred back. So we don't say that it's a verbal agreement in general. Whenever you see a team charter word, it has to be some physical artifact which can be referred back whenever needed. Now, what it can contain as an example, some kind of team description, goal, scope, type of team. This may become important when you have a multiple teams inside the project. One team might be focusing on one area, so you need to understand, okay, what is this team is all about, what all they can do as a, you can say, high level roles and responsibility of a team itself. That's the team description. And then you may have a more details about who are the people. You may talk about team members and high level understanding of their roles and responsibility. You may merge these two information, like you may have a table where you put team members name and you may tell about their roles and responsibilities. Some subset of a version of a RACI matrix can also work. What is our shared value, what all we believe in, like respect, transparency, listening to the other's point, challenging the status quo, whatever we believe. It may be driven from organization value, but we can say, guys, these are the value which will guide our behavior. Now somebody will say, why do we need a value? Value is more like an abstract. We cannot tell each and everything how people should behave, but we can say that, guys, we need to focus on transparency. I can't say that you need to share this, share this, share this. That will become more like a behavioral guideline. But if we agree to transparency, we create an expectation in the team members that in our team we value transparency. So it's, if it is useful to create a common understanding of our behavior, we can put a shared value, and then we can give a behavioral guidelines, more detail, that okay, update your work before you go home, respect to others' opinion before you put your opinion, listen for facts and things, and keep judgment aside. So whatever behavior, reach on the meetings on time, never late to the meeting. Maybe there's a behavioral guideline. After the meeting, if you have a question, put it into a particular tool. So those kind of expected behavior which you have, may you want to put into the behavioral guideline. And now you can realize the overall idea is that creating an understanding in the team members so that they can work well with each other without someone telling them do this, do this, do this. And that's the primary purpose of creating team charter. More specific ground rules might include guideline for communication, guideline for tools that don't work on a task till the time you put into the system. Yeah, if you have a high priority task, don't take a low priority task. That could be a ground rule. If you end up missing attending a particular meeting, make sure you take a briefing from someone else. Yeah, so that could be there. There could be a guideline specific related to communications also. These kind of information you should send electronically. These kind of information you should discuss face to face. So those kind of understanding, little extension of a behavioral guideline which are more specific, becomes your ground rule. It could be a working agreement also. Sometimes you may have a little bit overlap here and there, like what time we start, what time we finish, what is our shared hours, those kind of clarity. How do we put the things into say escalation, what kind of things should get escalated. So those kind of working agreement might also be there. Then our focus as a project leader is we want to create a team who can take care of their conflicts and decision making as well. So the team charter should include things like how do we resolve conflicts. So see, again, this topic may get related to conflict management. Whenever I have a conflict situation, and if I see an option that I let the team resolve their conflicts as per team charter, it's a good option, because rather than I jumping into the two team members conflicts or team conflicts, if the team can take care of it with the help of team charter and their own maturity, that's the best thing to do. So I may have an agreement on how do we handle conflicts, what kind of conflict need to be resolved locally, when the conflict has to be escalated, and what is the process of escalation, we can define in the team charter itself. Decision making guidelines say, how do you decide about an estimate, how do you decide what defect to be fixed, what defect need to be put for the later uses, how do you decide who works on what, and what do you do when you have a conflict while making a decision. You may go for vote or you may go for agreement. What is the process? So those kind of guideline may also be written here. So the idea of this team charter is we want to create an understanding of how do we manage our work. And if we have that understanding, then I don't, I as a project manager, like it is not needed to dictate people all the time. And by doing it, I make the team self-organized and they can take care of their own work themselves. And they are not dependent on me so that they can go fast. So that's the overall objective. And that's the tool, a team charter or a ground rules or working agreement we use in order to get that thing moving. So that's another reminder for your PMP exam perspective. You can use definitely for your day-to-day working as well. Now, other two subtasks, extraction from the task 12. Establishing an environment that fosters adherence to a ground rules. So we need to ensure that ground rules are not just created, they really get followed. And we need to manage and rectify ground rule violations. So that's another, I would say, responsibility of a project manager. The project manager should ensure that. So how do we do that? Some ideas for your PMP exam perspective. How do I establish an environment that foster adherence to the ground rules? The first and foremost thing is I let people make their own ground rules. Yeah. So facilitate team in making team charter. You don't make team charter for them. If they create themselves, then they know what they are doing. They are more engaged to it. They are more committed to it, and they should have a mechanism to review it as well. So you ensure the team is collaborating, they are listening to each and every person's opinion, and then they are finally agreeing to a team charter. They may sign on the team charter one by one, or some amount of voting which shows a clear commitment to the team charter. And once I do that, I have created a foundation for adherence to the ground rules and team charter. And these rules are not meant for me, not for meant for project manager. They are meant for their own team, their own way of working. So I should let the team do it. I can facilitate, I can guide them, I can talk about various section, I can explain why we should have something here. If they are not planning anything about decision making, I can point it out that why we don't have any idea for making decisions. We should have some ideas there as well. So that all I can do, but I should not be making it for my team, because that will reduce the engagement of the team. I set the examples. So I myself follow the ground rules. Yeah. I ensure that there should be some ideas about putting the work, about the meeting timings, about reaching the meeting on time, about following up by way of putting minutes of the meetings. So I play as a role model. Yeah. I just follow the ground rules. And when I follow the ground rules, it creates I think a cascading effect, so that my team members also follow the ground rules. So that's another task you can do. All are good option, right option. When you have a situation where ground rules are not followed, you can say, okay, I make sure the team is engaged. We can revisit with the team to make sure that they are committed to the ground rules. I can set my example. I need to put some transparency and structure in place. So this is pretty important. Now what does it mean? Say we have agreed to do a daily meeting at 9 a.m. Yeah. And how do I ensure the 9 a.m. meeting is happening? Or if it is not happening, people know it is not happening. So we may have a mechanism, if that's a problem, just an example, that we track maybe on a weekly basis or thing, where we talk about how many times during this week we had this meeting and how effective it was. So we have some mechanism of putting a structure in place where adherence to that idea, that particular agreement is visible. And if it is not adhered, that is also visible. So as a project manager, I need to put some structures in place so that these ground rules are visibly clear to my team members. And if they don't follow it, they get a clear reminder that something is missing here without me telling about it. So that can also help us in creating the environment of supporting the ground rules. We need to focus on consistent enforcement. So what does it mean? You may get a question. People want to violate a ground rule for today. What would you do? You let them do it today? It could be a wrong answer. Yeah. Again, practically it depends, but it would be a wrong answer. Reason is when you start violating the rule one day, it gives a trigger to violating it again tomorrow. It may promote that particular behavior. So small or big, we need to focus on consistent enforcement. If we don't like that particular thing, we can remove it. Yeah, it is not like that once the rules are made, they are frozen. We can have a mechanism of revisiting our team charters and ground rules, but till the time they are there, till the time we have not revisited them, till the time we commit to them, we follow them. So I don't give flexibility. Yeah, that's an important reminder for your exam. As a project manager, you don't get flexibility in your ground rules adherence. You remind people, you point it out if something is happening. You keep training and educating people about the overall importance of ground rules. You provide periodic review opportunity. So this is like inside your team charter, you should have a mechanism of how frequently we revisit on it. So maybe in the predictive life cycle, we use a lesson learned meetings for doing it. In the adaptive life cycle, we use a retrospective meeting. Whatever is the mechanism, but we should have some periodic review of Do we need to add something in our ground rules to facilitate our way of working? Do we need to remove some things from our ground rules or our team charter because it's an old thing, no more relevant? So we should have that conversation all the time. If it is fresh, it will get followed. If it is something which you prepared in the beginning, will not get followed. So retrospective and lesson learns can have a agenda of reviewing your ground rule, and it can lead to update in the ground rule as well. So that's another pointer for your PMP exam. I do need to provide feedback. Yeah. So it's not like, yeah, it's their rule, whatever they want to do it, let them do. So if there is a ground rule violation is happening, yeah, I need to share my observation, and I don't have to jump to correct it. I need to let team use their periodic reviews and their own mechanism to fix that problem. But I need to show that error. I need to show that not adhering to a ground rule by way of transparency, or if needed, giving a feedback. So feedback is not a problem, but don't take a control. You can say, oh, I will do some fine. So say it's like this. The question comes that people should be attending on time in the meeting, and you observe people are not attending on time. What would you do? One option is you will start putting fine from tomorrow, whoever comes late. Wrong option. You don't jump to doing all those things. You probably the right option could be you will point out to the team that how they want to ensure that they adhere to this particular ground rule, because I have been observing it is not get followed. So I share my feedback. Another wrong option could be I stay silent. It's their rule, and I let them do whatever they want. So that is also a wrong option. So I don't dictate. I don't remain silent. I show the issue. That's the middle path I have to take. I need to provide a feedback. Yeah? So that's there. Now, incorporating into the onboarding process, if someone new person is joining in, I need to make sure that they get facilitated for understanding the ground rules and their processes. Now, one of the tricky thing, which is a PMP thing, which may not be there in your generic agile environment or other places, serious violation of a ground rules may lead to disciplinary action, and project manager has to take care of it. So manage and rectify ground rule violation if it is going to a particular limit. So here, from an exam perspective, so if something is not getting followed, I need to point it out. And if you see a particular person or a particular individual who has been team is giving feedback to the person, you might have had a conversation with the person, but still the ground rules are not getting followed. The person is not fitting into the team agreements. Now what do? I need to take disciplinary action. I can't just remain silent about it, which may require removing the team member from the team. Yeah. Now, sometimes you will say, how can a project manager do that? We are just there to facilitate and lead people and all. From a PMP exam perspective, you are there to ensure business value delivery. You are there to ensure your team collaborate well with each other. If one person is not adhering to the ground rule and other, maybe you have a 20 people in the team, other 19 are also suffering. You can't let 19 people suffer because of one person. So be careful. You don't jump to the escalation, don't jump to removing of the person from the team until unless you clearly see a feedback that multiple actions has been taken already and they have not produced any result. Then you go for it. So don't jump, don't shy from removing the person from the team, because here it is project management. It is just not generic scrum master or facilitation job. So these are some of the ideas which I wanted to present related to this particular task: defining team ground rules, communicate organizational principles with the team and external stakeholders, establish an environment that fosters adherence to the ground rules slash team charter slash working agreement slash team agreement. So you can use all these words interchangeably. And you need to take care of manage and rectify the ground rule violation. Always try to give a feedback to the team, let the team figure it out, work on the retrospective and lesson learned. But something goes beyond that, I need to do something about it. Yeah.